Alrighty, everybody. A very warm welcome to our first 2026 meeting, but of course this is our second Regional Transport Committee meeting, so an exceptional welcome to you all. It's great to have those who are in the room, but also for those of you who are online, a welcome to you as well. We will start with a karakia, please, which Jess is going to kick off for us.
Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e he ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora.
Thank you, Jess. Right, good morning, everybody, again. So what we'll do is we will start with our apologies. We've got an apology from Mayor Mike, I believe, and we also have an apology from Lisa from NZTO for lateness. Should be arriving a little bit later. From Kiwi Rail, sorry. Yes. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Rodney. And Jeanette's going to second. That's okay. All in favour? Carried. Now, a confirmation of the agenda. Everyone happy with the agenda to date? Yeah. And we've got Claire St. Pierre who's going to move the agenda for us, and Angela will second. All in favour? Carried. Now, are there any disclosures of interest this morning? No one is putting their hand up, and I don't see anyone online with their hand up, so we will take that. No one has any disclosures. So then we'll move to our minutes for confirmation from our December the 8th meeting, 2025. Are there any changes? Anyone's got any amendments to make? Otherwise, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please. For someone who was at the meeting. So Jeanette was at the meeting and you were happy to move the minutes. Thank you. And Rodney's going to happy to second those minutes. So all in favour? Carried. All right, that was nice and easy breezy. All right, we're going to move to our first report, and it's our director's report, and Phil and Lorraine are going to be presenting that. So we're on page 16, everybody.
Morena koutou. Lorraine's just on her way up. So Lorraine and I will be covering a lot of the business today. So Lorraine's pretty much going to be sat there for most of the meeting. For those of you who haven't met Lorraine, she's our new manager at Transport Strategy and Delivery within the Regional Transport Connections Directorate. So her team leads the preparation of the majority of the information that comes to you at your meetings. Over to you, Lorraine, to take us through the report.
Morena tātou. Thank you, Phil, and through you, the Chair. For the Director's report, just intending to take it read, I was just going to point out a few key points. I guess the key point around the infrastructure plan is that New Zealand is one of the highest spenders in the OECD on infrastructure, but we have really low efficiency when rated against the OECD for the outcomes for our infrastructure spend, and notes that in particular transport infrastructure as per the pipeline is unaffordable, as is most of the pipeline, and so while I think there's something like 21 billion or 7.6% of the pipeline projects for the Waikato, it remains to be seen how in the shakedown of actually making it affordable, what I guess floats to the surface there. And we will probably get the first indication of how the government responds to the infrastructure plan with the GPS, which is due out later this year, the draft GPS government policy statement on land transport. For local government reform, as elected members, you'll be across this. And so really the purpose of mentioning it on this agenda is really that in our analysis of the proposal as it is very light on transport and how we would improve, especially greater delivery or efficiencies in the delivery of public transport. And that is something that will probably we'll end up working through potentially in this triennium.
Thanks, Lorraine. Do you want questions as we go? Or I see Mike's got his light on. I think Claire's about to have a... Yeah, that might be helpful just if we're on the same topic. Mike.
Yeah, thank you. Look, regarding the infrastructure plan and those statistics there that, we spend quite highly, but we get very low value or output for our spend. Look, this is a huge issue for us as a nation and a region. I submitted quite in some detail to the Infrastructure Commission on this. They didn't take any of what I said into account. I got a pretty standard political answer back. I have a history of working in infrastructure and over 15 years lost 50% of my efficiency. 50%, like I was achieving half of what I was in the 90s by around 2010 in terms of productivity. Now, I cannot get any traction on this, and the Infrastructure Commission rejected what I said we need to tackle here, and they've put out a report that's all around planning and, using our infrastructure better, sort of off time, like putting in poo storage things and pumping it at night when the pipes aren't full. Yeah, that's all good. But, the reason I lost 50% of my efficiency, the reason we're so poor at getting output for what we spend is because of the way we do our business, and no one's listening. So I'm not, part of why I stood for council was to try and get some traction from the inside, because I couldn't change this as a contractor. I saw it, I railed against it, and we carried on down this track, and we're still on this track. And the Infrastructure Commission's plan does not address the key issues here. So I'm not sure what to do about this.
Well, Mike, I tell you what, if you can perhaps, think about some action points that you'd like to see that is related to transport into this committee, I think we'd all be welcome to, would all be interested in your thinking in that space.
Okay, so when is the time and place to do that?
Right. If you can articulate them in an email to me, and then what we can do is we can circulate that, and then we can start thinking about how we can implement that into an agenda item.
Thank you.
Claire.
Yes, thanks. And in fact, I was going to pick up on that too, because I was actually going to ask Lorraine, like this call for efficiency. So what measures does the Regional Council have to demonstrate the efficiency of the work that they're undertaking, whether it's transportation or infrastructure projects? I mean, I'd be really interested in that, and whether or not you can track that over time, I mean, I had a quick look at that infrastructure report, and it's signalling a reduction in funding is needed for transportation. And so we need to be well equipped as a region to demonstrate that the budget that we've got, the money that we're spending is used efficiently, and it's good value for money. I mean, actually, Auckland's got 39% of the budget. Okay, we've got 7.6. I'd hope that Auckland could make some efficiencies or some cuts to their budgets, but if we can start working on these measures to demonstrate efficiency, to show that actually we're a top performer, we should be keeping all our budget, and this is why. Yeah, so I don't know if you've already got some measures or anything like that.
So through you, Madam Chair, the Regional Council as such doesn't really invest in a lot of infrastructure apart from flood management. The transport investment is actually this committee, and we do that through obviously the Regional Land Transport Plan. So we provide the monitoring reports for the measures that were determined at the time that the plan was adopted, and I think we've got a monitoring report coming to the next committee. But it's also something to bear in mind for as we prepare the next Regional Land Transport Plan through the course of this year, how we want to measure that efficiency, and it's the remit of this committee in particular for transport infrastructure.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, I take your point that the Regional Council doesn't actually do the investment, but the trouble is the Infrastructure Commission is grouping all of the Waikato together. So the reporting that's got to come through somehow, I think this committee needs to be tasked with in some way coordinating and collating that information, so that as a region we can show that yeah, we're really efficient at what we do. And
It's proving it and justifying it, isn't it,
yeah,
Claire? So yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, absolutely. So we'll try to bring that back into another meeting as well, so we can understand what what the plan is. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll Duncan.
I'll just briefly in response to Mike's comment. Sounds like our motivation to get into council was very similar, because I'm coming from an engineering background, and I think I might have you beat a little bit, because I was part of the certain super city north of us rejig when they changed track in 2010. And I estimated after that I was still part of it, so my productivity dropped about 30%, and that's all about the processes and the way things are the things can happen. But certainly the way forward to getting better value, I personally think is what does happen out there, and I think actually NZTA are possibly one of the worst offenders, is that cookie cutter solutions out of the book cost a lot. Gold plated stuff cost a lot, and this country's totally got away from the number 8 buy mentality and getting back to first principles and weighing up value for money, and that's I think that's has to be a large part of the answer.
Thank you, Duncan. All right, we'll head back to Lorraine. We'll carry on through your report, please.
So just to essentially bring to the committee's attention that the community transport grant round for 25-26 has just closed. There might be some interest of that in your community. And also to bring to the committee attention that in the transport space, there's been changes for government to total mobility, which is reducing the subsidy by 10% as of 1 July as the first step. And then they also have charged NZTA to work with us to look at further reducing what they call regional fare caps, which we don't have, but essentially our proportion of the subsidy for users. So unfortunately, that is going to be unsettling for a lot of total mobility users. And we will be taking some of the options for how regional council will do that to the next regional council committees 1 July, so that will feed through back to you. And then also just to note the range of consultation on speed limit changes around the region, which are mostly at the moment speed intersection zones. So that's where you slow down, you have the flashing light and you slow down usually to about 60 at some of those intersections. This is NZTA, so they're all related to the state highways. And they're also looking at in the near future doing some consultation on some speed limit reductions, mostly in the in villages and coming into towns on the state highway network.
Thanks, Lorraine. And look, just on that, I just urge those elected members around the table, if you've got any issues with that speed reduction going into those intersections, please say something. Now, before we get too far down the road, not looking at anyone in particular, but speed reductions has been a topic of quite considerable conversation in the past. So it's just good for us to be very aware that this is happening, and we need to speak now if there's any concern. So, Peter.
Thanks. Actually, not a concern. It's the fact that finally, after many years, we have had some speed reductions in the Thames Coromandel District Council area, in particular around holiday destinations, and also partly going through Thames. And it was a hard battle to get there, but the outcome has been absolutely fantastic that finally we've had some action. So kind of a bouquet, I think, that one around speed reduction.
We're here to Ray and Claire. Did you go Ray first and then Claire?
I'm not too sure how to turn my light.
Over to you, Ray.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we've got some speed reductions at intersections on the Karakia district, mainly to State Highway 2. Needs more intervention. if you want more information, how do we get that in there? We need some physical intervention because we're still getting crashes there. There's petitions being put together by locals, regards it. It's a real trigger. I know Peter is very much aware of it at Oronga Corner, and it's just on our side, but it's basically people going to the ECDC area, and we need to actually do intervention there, whether it's rumble strips or whatever. But it's something that we're trying to do as a local council, but we need more support to actually drive that through.
Okay, are you asking this committee to support that?
Yes, we would.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have NZTA in the room at the moment, but we have a representative online. So perhaps what we can do is talk a bit further. Oh, actually, here we go. Did you have a comment at all that you wanted to make, Nairi? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's all right. I'm aware of the community requests around the intersection, particularly that you've mentioned. So yeah, we're aware that there's some issues there. There is currently in the current NLTP, we don't have funding for further safety interventions at that location. However, we have taken on board the community, what the community has said, and the issues that obviously crash around the Christmas period. And we will be looking at that in the future.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nairi. Okay, we'll go to Sue and then Claire, sorry.
Thank you. Do I need to push any button?
No, you're live, you're ready to roll.
Thank you. Kia ora tātou, everyone. Lovely to be on this committee for the first time. Mine's more a question really around the total mobility part of your report. I might track back to that briefly. We know that the subsidy, the maximum caps, they vary by area to reflect local conditions. Can you just talk about what type of local conditions are taken into account in those?
This, currently, my understanding is mostly historical and how they were set previously when we used to take the local contribution from the local area. And it was really, those conditions were set by the local TAs.
Okay, so in this review of the reducing the fees by 10%, would those relativities be part of that?
That is one option that we will look at, yes. Yep.
Claire? Sorry, you just take your, yep, there we go. Claire's online now.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, so with the total mobility changes, there's that subsidy reduction. It actually increases substantially costs for vulnerable users in Waipa towns. And we'd really like to advocate for consistency across the region, recognising that, you know, the location means that it creates greater transport advantage for those that are outlying areas. And then on the speed management changes, I saw with delight that Karakia is there being considered by NZTA for a speed review, and just that the Waipa view is that those safety interventions in Karakia and also the whara approaches, which is and I know, but they're really important because these rural arterials are being used as state highway diversions quite frequently now. Yeah, so we just feel it's really important to have those speed limits set at this, a really good safety level. Obviously, if there were safety improvements as well, but you've just mentioned that there isn't, I don't really have money for that, but yeah, really keen to have as many interventions that will keep those people safe on the road.
We'll go to Mayor Ash.
Yeah, good morning. I noticed with the speed reduction things, and there's been one that's been going on for years, and it was on State Highway 27 outside the Marae at Waka there by the airfield, because we've also had a fatality where someone's pulled out from the airfield in the past as well. And my question is you know, why does it take so long to reduce the speed limit? For the first thing, because it's relatively easy to do, very easy. And also on Mangapiro Road is another part in Maramara where it's come up many a time. Same with Chuki's Corner. There's quite a few areas, and I mean, it comes from local knowledge and, you know, talking to fire brigades and that, where the real needs are. So yeah, my question is, I can't see that on here. There's Maramara Township where additional development has occurred. That's possibly Mangapiro Road, State Highway 24 and State Highway 27, but it's just not clear. And just wondering if we could, you know, get some clarity around that. Thanks.
Yeah, so this is NZTA consultation. It's their work program. So there is the NZTA representative on board. It's probably best to put questions on timing to the NZTA representative, or they may be addressing it in their update later on this agenda.
Yeah, because the concern is that we talk about it for years upon years upon years. You know, these conversations were had 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and that's just a concern. I'm not sure, yeah, why it has to take so long. That's all. Relatively easy.
All right, thank you, Mayor Ash. Nari, did you want to address that, or I do have another suggestion if you're not in a position to do that?
Oh, happy to hear your suggestion, Chair.
Okay, sure. My suggestion was going to be that because we've got a number of, I guess, queries around timing or suggestions of other speed reductions that some of the region would like to see occur. So my suggestion was going to be that we write as an organisation to NZTA, help us understand the process and also where are these other concerns in their timeframe or timelines. So, Naira, is that something you'd be happy to accept?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I take your point, Ash. Timing and an understanding of how to make change is really what we want to see. And I do recall that from history that, you know, we don't see action. There are some elected members who take matters into their own hands. So we don't want to see a repeat of that. What we want to do is work with NZTA, but I understand the level of frustration. So that's where I think you're coming from, and understanding that time frame is important, and also where things are on the list. So I've got yours as well, Ray. Yeah. We're not doing any painting this term, Ash. I'm going to try and avoid that. But thank you for your question, and we will, we will think through Lorraine. We'll create, get a letter off. Okay, we're going to head back to Duncan. You're next.
So, Chair, yeah, thanks. I'll just throw in, when I was up Auckland Way, I was aware of a small community up in the old Rodney District Council. It wasn't the councillors took measures into their hands. It was the local community started banging up their own speed limit signs, and it was that way for years before I got noticed.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
No, yeah.
There's a process, so we're going to write to NZTA and make sure that we're following a clear process.
But my question was really, it's about total mobility again, because it was raised about the caps, and I'm interested in, okay, historically they came that way, but what they, I mean, Taupo District Council has an $18 cap, and as opposed to some of the other districts with an $80 cap, and I could only think a reasonable basis for measure those caps would be, well, distance travelled, and if you're living local in an urban environment and the distances aren't great, then a lower cap kind of makes sense. But I mean, we've got some communities in our district travelling quite significant distances, and what would it take to have a review of this, of raising the cap for the Taupo district? Significantly.
Just as Lorraine answers that specific question, I'll just, for the sake of the committee, just give you some context here, which is that from a review that we undertook in 2022, there was an action to look at the way that we had been rating for public transport and total mobility. in the 2024 long-term plan was an approach set up where we transitioned to a regional rating model. And that was the point where many of the districts had been paying the local share for public transport were previously being invoiced monthly, quarterly delivery of those services, and that all shifted into the regional council. And at the same time, within that targeted rate, total mobility and community transport were all included as well. So we're in a position in this 3-year cycle where we've introduced that platform. As we start to plan for both the future of community transport, total mobility, transport, and as we start going into our long-term process, there is definitely an opportunity to do a full reset of how those are charged and how those systems operate across each of the districts, across the whole of the region. So we're in a holding pattern at the moment where we've brought something into our organisation that's the same as what was there before, and we're now looking with you and with the regional PT subcommittee to start working out what the future of those might be. So that's just some context, and then I'll to Lorraine for a specific question.
Thank you. Can you just remind me of the specific question?
Yeah. What would it take to get the rate, the $18 total mobility cap lifted substantially for our district?
That's for the Taupo district. Yes. So we are working, so the direction from government is to lower caps. So that's probably makes it a bit more challenging. We're always trying to, I guess, get the most equitable outcome. And it may be that an overall regional standard rate would raise it for Taupo, depending on where that lands, because obviously there are some quite high ones, but there's not a high number of users in those areas. So the effect of having some higher caps doesn't necessarily affect, overall lowering of the expense related to cost related to it across the region, because in Hamilton you have a lot more users, setting the average amount that's paid, the subsidy per trip.
Oh yeah. I recognise it's all about numbers, and if you've got few users and high caps, well, that's fine. But I suppose we would be interested in knowing those numbers, the numbers of users, because I just suspect people in places like Turangi and Mangakino, which might have some significant distances, perhaps they don't even tap into this thing because it would be too expensive, and subsidy still doesn't make it worthwhile. But you don't know till you put it out there.
We'll get that information to you, Duncan. Yeah. Mike.
So just on that, but that's not my question, is what's the timing for this review, and what input will we have as councils?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. The changes are for the first 10%, which is the government reduction from 1 July. And also through you, Madam Chair, there is a full report on total mobility coming through to the PT subcommittee this afternoon. It was really raised as a topic for the committee here to be aware of if these issues are coming up in your community, and also in terms of the next report, I mean, we do through the regional land transport plan have the opportunity to set whatever budget, we like in effect, and then prioritise that if that's how this committee wants to do that.
Okay, so you're saying that it's going to happen 10% cut, but we will get a chance to have there's a review going on and we will have input into that. Time frame for that today or?
So, yes, the regional council will be receiving the information on the options, and the full report on the variation across the region in the PT subcommittee this afternoon. So there's an opportunity there to provide some feedback in relation to that.
Okay, thanks for that. But my other question, or just wanting to jump on with this speed thing, exactly the same issues. I just want to add support to the timing and effort it takes to change. We've got a problem with Airport Road, State Highway 26. Impossible to lower the speed limit. It should be sensible, easy to do, and it's not. So this needs to change. How do we do that? NZTA need to find a way, basically. And how do we tell them to do that?
Thank you, Mike. Hearing that loud and clear. Alvisa, and then we'll go to Jeanette.
Firstly, I just want to support everyone's concerns around the subsidy reductions on total mobility. This is quite a scary time for a lot of our lower income communities. And secondly, I do have a question. Around the speed reductions, you've noted the State Highway 28 and State Highway 5 intersection, which is right next to Te Waiho, Blue Springs at one end. I am aware that there are discussions from South Waikato District Council with NZTA around the Te Waiho traffic management issue. Can you confirm whether there is ongoing talks about speed reductions at the Leslie Road and Whites Road intersection as part of that sort of stretch?
Sorry, I'm not aware of other conversations that NZTA is having, but the NZTA representative today might be able to answer.
Nari, do you have an update?
I don't have any information on further speed conversations around other areas around that State Highway 5, State Highway 28. It's in the future list that is number 24 in that agenda item. It's not there, so I'm not sure if there are future conversations at this point. I know there is conversations around potential infrastructure that may come forward for the RLTP, but I'm not sure about speed.
So, Alvisa,
We can certainly find out.
Yeah, well, let's add that to our letter because we've already got some other queries around specific areas, so we can add that as well. Yeah, because it's something you raised last meeting as well. So, yeah, I'm very mindful of it. Okay, thanks for that. Jeanette?
Thank you for your report. I just wondered at what point or how could areas which don't have total mobility at the moment, such as Waitomo and Otrahonga, how could we be considered? Would that be part of this upcoming review?
So we're always trying, we need to have operators that we can sign up in the area. It's not that we aren't always looking for them, but it's attracting the operators into the scheme.
I've actually had some experience when we set up Waipa, so I can talk to you about how we did that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
No, brilliant. And Sue, and then Angela.
Thank you again on total mobility. The 10%, the instruction from government to cut 10%, is that on total spend or is that on the caps?
So there's 10% that the government is reducing itself from 75% total subsidy down to 65%. That's from a currently 25% is government funded, and that's dropping down to 15%. And then they're working with NZTA to reduce NZTA is to work with us to reduce what they call the regional fare cap by a further 10%, which it's not the right terminology, but we take it to mean reducing the maximum subsidy by a further 10%. But again, that brings in a lot of, that's nationally, so it brings in a lot of other issues around if we have different rates within the region, you can imagine what it's like across the country.
I might explore this a bit more this afternoon because there's quite a difference between dropping the maximum amount by 10% or cutting it across the expenditure. So the difference between those things is quite important. No, that's it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Sue. Okay, I think that brings our director's report to a close. Is there anything else, Lorraine, you wanted to mention? No, and there's no other questions, so I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the director's report. Claire is going to move, Rodney's going to second. All in favour? Carried. Thanks, everybody. Okay, Lorraine, I think you're going to stay exactly where you are. We're going to do our next item, which is the introduction to our regional land transport plan, and that is on page 21 for everybody.
Yes, thank you. This is, I guess, the big task that we have for this triennium is to prepare the regional land transport plan, and the report from Catherine Simpson and my team sets out our project plan for getting to what we have as the known dates at this point in time for the preparation by the committee, adoption by the regional council, and then submission to NZTA for inclusion in the National Land Transport Program, which then enables the access to funding from the NLTF. I'll take the report as read because Catherine's read it, but I'm happy to answer questions. Catherine's written it, sorry. I'm happy to answer questions, but I did want to draw your attention to two key dates that are in the report, and these are the first two workshop dates for what we call the ILM, the investment logic mapping. So we've been talking already a little bit today about how we want to spend money efficiently for transport efficiency, and also perhaps on total mobility, and maybe we want some of the parties to spend their money on safety. So the investment logic maps are really important for you as the committee to signal what you want to invest in and what you want to achieve from investing in the regional land transport plan. So the first workshop date, which we're really hoping elected members will attend in person, is the 20th of March. There's a second one once we identify the benefits of investing or the problems and then the benefits, then we look at how we want to measure and what we want to know about those benefits, and that would be the 10th of April. So ideally elected members in person, anyone can join online, but preferably all in person on the 20th of March at least, if that's possible. And also reach out to your, what we call the RAG members, your regional advisory group staff who are here to support you through that. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. All right, any questions on this? Only Mike, go first.
Yeah, so previously it was raised that councils could have put up their top highest priority project is that they wanted regional support with. So I'm curious as to these workshops. Do they focus? Will that be a focus, or we'll be trying to get on board with sort of regional approaches like Southern Links, or will we have the opportunity to say where's our biggest stress issues and put those on the table? I'm just trying to get a feel for that, because it was mentioned the last meeting that go away and come back with what is your biggest issue in your council that you want regional support with. Now, is that a part of this workshop, or is going to be a focus?
Lorraine, I'll let you answer that first. I have some personal thoughts as well, but you go first.
Yeah, so I think there's another brief report on those issues. That's absolutely the place where we start collecting the issues, and then once the investment logic is sorted out, the committee then has to prioritise the committee as a whole for everybody's issues that they are of priority for them.
Okay, so that's the time to bring those to the table, though.
Thanks. Well, so thank you very much. Thanks for the report, by the way, and all the effort that's gone in. Whilst I would be expecting that we would have the opportunity to represent, you know, various projects and so on, at a higher level, will the plan have well expressed and well adopted themes? And I'm thinking in particular, and once again, this is coming from my area, the whole theme of resilience is an absolutely critical theme that I would be wanting to see expressed. And whilst there might be lots of projects that come out of that, it's a theme of resilience. And perhaps related to that is the concept or the theme of building back better, you know, because we know of the huge impact it has when we build back better. We've experienced it and we've reaped the benefits of it. And I think NZTA similarly has reaped the benefits of it. So, yep, understand about projects, but I'd be really keen to see some strong themes that are adopted and run through the plan.
Thank you, Peter. We'll head to Sue and then Rodney.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I also had some questions about the project management plan. How well developed is it now? Because thinking around the ability to be able to take that back to our, you know, our constituent organisations to get some feedback and ahead of the 20th of March workshop. Is that something?
I'm a little bit unclear what the question is. The project plan, yeah, happy to receive feedback. It's been socialised with the RAG members.
Okay.
But
it's not. Is it in our papers today? Okay. Okay. Thank you. I should take that to my back to Hamilton City Council. Thank you.
Rodney.
Yeah, I just kind of like to echo Peter's thoughts. The theme of resilience or something like, to me, is what the country needs. I just remember one of the last plans, we spent a whole lot of time making a plan and then we got a change of government. So it was thrown in the bin and we had to start again. So I'm not sure whether signalling that this government's ministers on a Zoom meeting has talked about looking 30 years ahead rather than shorter term, which I think ties into what Peter's sort of saying, the resilience. So probably not a question, it's probably more a statement that maybe our thinking needs to be that, but then of course we could get a change of government and go back to road to zero. It's just kind of my comment, really.
Thank you, Rodney. Claire.
Yes, and I'd also like to support the call for resilience in the development of the plan. Totally accept that what's being experienced on the Coromandel Peninsula. Yeah, it really affects the ability for that region to actually function if their roads are out. But for Waipa and probably for Otahonga as well, we're finding that that State Highway 3 is being used as for diversions and things like that. And the feedback I've got from our staff is that heavier traffic, that higher intensity of use is really affecting the pavement quality. So I think we've got to factor that into account when we accept that we will have high intensity rain events or something where our main state highways are out, or the Waikato Expressway, but those diversion routes also need to be built for resilience.
Thank you, Claire. All right, I think we've heard from most people. Look, the workshop on the two workshops that are coming up, but certainly the 20th of March, I just urge you all to talk with your own individual councils, come with a really clear understanding of what your priorities are. We've already heard there's a lot of similar themes, and we as a collective need to produce a plan that we're all happy with, and of course ultimately NZTA as well. But please come with your I guess your your district's voice, and so that we have a great clarity going into the workshop what we are going to need to end up with. We want to see this this plan be really, and this is a really important plan, and this is your opportunity. So yeah, just want to emphasise that. Right, so I think that's probably all we need to say on the introduction into this plan. So I'll just call for a mover and a seconder, please. Mike's going to move and Ash is going to second. All in favour? Carried. Thanks, everybody.
Could I just make another comment on that?
Yes, Mike.
It was raised before about Auckland getting, I think, 39% and us getting 7%. I think this is our opportunity to have a very strong regional voice, because if you look at where New Zealand earns its money, it's not in Auckland, it's in the regions. Okay, we are the productive part of this country, and we should get more than Auckland. Really, you look what Argentina did and focused on its urban strategy, its major centres, and it failed them. And that's what we're doing, focusing on Auckland and investing in Auckland. It's the wrong strategic move. We need to be investing in the regions. And here's our opportunity to say very strongly with a regional submission, you need to invest in us because we are the ones that earn the money. So just, Auckland is not a great productive centre. It's the population centre. It's the political strength, and their mayor demonstrates that by the way he operates, which we can all take some lessons from. But we are the productive. And Waikato was probably the most productive region. So I just want to stress that.
Yep, thank you, Mike. Point well made. Oh, yeah, I think we all agree with that. All right. We had our mover and a seconder for that introduction. So thanks, everyone. That motion was carried. So we're going to now move on to our next item, which is our road safety item on page 47 for everybody. And we have Lorraine here, but we're also going to welcome Alex. Right, hand over to you.
Just like to again welcome Alex. She's our road safety lead here at Waikato Regional Council, and she's prepared the report today. We are happy to take it as read, but we know that there have been a couple of questions raised, and between Alex and I, we'll go those questions for you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Any questions on the road safety? There's a number of graphs and things in there. It's always troubling. Statistics, Claire.
Yes, thank you. It's a great report. I was looking closely at those graphs, and yes, there is a slight reduction actually, which has been really pleasing, but I noticed that it's simply on a gross number of accidents or crashes. I think we should be having reporting on a per capita basis because we've got some strong population growth, and that is a more accurate and I suppose objective way of measuring things. Have you considered doing that?
They have done that in previous reports.
I think especially as we have got strong population growth and I think it would give a clearer picture, a fairer picture probably.
Any other questions, Mike? We'll just give you.
Yeah, the graph is actually wrong. Last year was 269, which was our lowest in probably a long, long time. It was pretty significant. Look, I was a network manager running 400 k's of state highway, so I looked at every fatality on that network. I look at them a lot in the Waikato district for interesting stats. That 269, and we were under 300 last year as well. So that's 2 years in a row we've got under 300. Now 300 was a bit of a milestone to get under. We got down there in 2013, and then we went back up, and we went up to 400. If we can stay under 300 going forward, that is actually a game changer in terms of we have actually achieved some stuff. And look, if you look at per capita, you go to the Scandinavian countries, Japan, they're at 100. Or, that's their rate as for 5 million people. So we need to get down to that. But there's a whole lot of social and cultural stuff in there. But one of the big things is divided carriageways. Now, the motorways, a big part of this reduction. For me, it's probably up there with seatbelts, which was 20, 30 years ago. How do we do that? Like the Road to Zero was a failed program, did not achieve the stats. The stats have come down since that was dropped. So we have done something that has achieved something. If we can stay down there again under that 300 and keep pulling it down, we're doing something right. So I'd like to see a bit more analysis. It does, if you go online, this report doesn't. The numbers here are actually wrong. They're saying over 300. It's wrong. So, if you go online and look at some analysis to why we got down there, it's quite interesting reading. We need to be around that, and understand this. But I want to understand our regional figures too. Are they accurate? Are they right? National ones aren't.
Yes, yeah, we got your email, and that was 2025 was the full calendar year in the graph, and the other ones were year to date till the 2nd of December. So that was just we're moving forward. We'll work on the accuracy of that.
But I'd like to understand regional figures too. Just check that as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. We'll go to Sue and then Ash.
Thank you for the report. Really interesting reading. On page 49, the road user fatalities. I note that there's a road user missing from these, and I'm about to guess why. So we don't record anything about trucks here, probably because when a truck is involved in a fatality, it's not the person in the truck that dies. It's the person in the car or on the motorbike. And I wondered if there's a way of being able to see when trucks are involved in road fatalities.
So the truck, I think what you're saying, if the truck driver died, then they would be in the driver's statistic, but they're not usually the one who comes as the fatality from a truck versus other road user. I think it would be a little bit difficult to find that, but we can have a look.
Because I think what you just said would be the key to it, right? The truck versus other. That would be very useful information, I think, for our region in particular to be able to see.
Right, thank you. So Ash, and then we'll go to Duncan.
It's all right. This is obviously something that's particularly interesting for me because, being in the industry of repairing accident damaged vehicles for 37 years, plus also, years and years ago operating tow truck at part of that business. So I've attended hundreds and hundreds of accidents, fatals, you name it, seen it all. But interesting, like the gentleman down there just mentioned before, 1973, 843 deaths on New Zealand roads. Have a think about that for a minute. There'd be easily 3 times, probably 4 times, maybe more vehicles on the roads, trucks and cars, since that time. And now we're looking at, under 300 fatalities, which is a really good thing. that road to zero, I was the mayor at the time when sitting in this boardroom, and that was the most ridiculous piece of equipment that I've ever seen, because they were talking about dropping the speed limit to 80 Ks because it's a knee-jerk reaction that, oh, this will work and this will save lives. And I said at the time, I don't believe it will. The amount of times that I've seen in accidents, and they could be fatals, they could be in a 50K area. They don't have to be in a 100K area. Accidents also happen in peculiar parts. They can be a dead straight road, a dry road. Speed's not always a factor in it. In fact, I think you'll find it's like 6%. So it's good that this article here, where it's more, and I think I said at the time, more about educating people. And but we are on a trajectory of lowering the deaths, which is encouraging, but that could also be to the modern cars have more, safety features in them, let's face it. But I think it's education. Accidents are going to happen, even with all the speed, buzzers and all that sort of stuff in cars. People still have accidents. A lot of the times too, the bad ones are at intersections where people have pulled out from an intersection, and you can ask them, "Didn't you not see the car? Did you look?" Yep, they looked, but they just didn't see them for some reason. And so what I'm saying is accidents happen. And if we think we can have zero, we're delusional, and we don't need to spend money, millions and millions of dollars trying to go down that avenue. We just need to do more sensible things. And it goes back to when we're saying that local knowledge, like I said, outside that marae, why can't we slow that speed down there where we've already had a fatal? Little things, big results. Thanks.
Thank you, Ash. Okay, Duncan, and then Ian.
Yeah, just bouncing off Mike's comments about divided carriageways, and I just want to throw in there about cookie cutter solutions actually making the situation worse, including road safety. And I want to just highlight 6 kilometres of wire rope barriers were installed year before last or so on State Highway 1 between State Highway 5 and Taupo Airport. And don't get me wrong, wire rope barriers can be a great cost-effective safety solution. And since they were introduced in the 2000s, I remember the first one went in Wellington, and it took time to get it going. But in some ways, I think it's got a bit of out of control. And for example, that section of State Highway 1, it's the ETA, it's the Taupo bypass. Since it was built in around 2012, there have been virtually 0 serious or fatal crashes on it. And yet we've gone in, NZTA went in and dumped in 6 kilometres of wire rope barrier in a section. And I think it's actually made it worse, because wire rope barriers do increase maintenance costs, and they add all sorts of complications, let alone if you're a motorbike bumping into that. But also that they restrict emergency vehicle access. They can't turn around. They can't. Cookie cutter solutions are no good, and we've got to get away from that.
Okay. Hey, look, thanks, Duncan. What I'll do is we do have an NZTA update later on in our agenda, so I'll ask Nairi to perhaps respond about the wire rope barriers at that point in time. Okay, Claire, and then Angela.
Yes, so I wanted to add another voice to Sue's about seeing what we can do about including trucks in the crash statistics. For Waipa, that's pretty important, because most of, there are a high rate of fatalities for the Waikato, and there's a good number that occur on those state highways which go through Waipa. Okay, so our staff have identified that this could well be because of heavy traffic, actually, because heavy traffic, I suppose, versus, a smaller vehicle, it does make them more vulnerable to injury. And we've also noted that there's increased pressure from Transport New Zealand, the National Road Transport Association as well, to allow unrestricted access of, those high performance motor vehicles, those big ones, on all local roads as well. So I think if we've got a good data database of information, yeah, we'll know whether or not those trucks are actually contributing a lot more than they should be to our fatalities and crashes.
No, thanks, Claire. Angela.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, probably just to follow on from what Ash was saying about crashes at intersections as well. I've noticed driving around a lot and having a learner driver driving around a lot in a smaller car. Often you pull up at intersections and the vegetation's high, more suited for utes and SUVs. Also, some of the sign placements as well. You actually can't see until you pull out, and oops, someone's coming. So, yeah, just wondering if we could, everyone in the room, yeah, just have a think about, maybe your road maintenance is those bigger ute vehicles, and have a think about all the smaller, aquas on the road, that our vulnerable road users drive and are learning in mostly, and some of our elderly as well. So, yeah, that would just be my 10 cents worth. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you, Angela. All right, everybody, I think that brings us to the end of that item. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, that the report be received? So we've got Mayor Ash is going to move and Alvisa is going to second. All in favour? Carried.
Could I just make a
Yes,
request?
yes, Peter.
Just picking up on the themes that have come out about, actually, are we perhaps doing quite well? I think it would be useful to have data, or just in here, the stats of comparing, giving this in the context of, for instance, how many registered vehicles there are. If we could see this based on the number of registered vehicles or the population or something like that, so we get some understanding of proportionality, I think it would be helpful in a report like this.
Okay. Yeah, I think Peter, I think that will be helpful. Are you okay with that?
Yes, we can probably circulate something after the meeting because nationally it was a good year. It was, what do they say? We're two halves. Waikato, comparatively, did not have one of the best years for road safety, and we do something after the meeting.
Okay, thanks, Lorraine. Okay, so we've finished now our road safety update. Everyone's happy with that. So we're going to move on to our response to topics related at the induction meeting on the 8th of December. So this is where I put the challenge out to you all good folk, that we were going to achieve something great this triennium, and we wanted to understand exactly where all of our where our whole region sat and what are the individual concerns or issues that are out there in your own district. So staff have very kindly created a report, and now I'll hand that over to Lorraine and Phil. Thank you.
Maybe this is before Lorraine's time, but you'll recall that in December we went round the table and had several full discussion points, which have led to us consolidating all of the things that you raised into this report today. So I guess primarily we're keen to understand that what we've reflected here is a mirror of what you said in December, but also some reflection on whether what you think it says reflects the big issues for the region. So I don't know if Lorraine wants to add any more.
Thank you. Through Madam Chair, I think it was my first first meeting in my first week with Waikato Regional Council, and I thought you probably wanted someone else to talk for a while, so thank you, Phil, for introducing it. But listen, I think, again, Catherine Simpson and my team wrote this report, but I think she wasn't at the meeting and she captured your issues, and we're hearing them again today. Resilience, obviously, is in there, safety, and I think the issue around where damage is being incurred on local roads because of diversions due to maintenance and or where there's been washouts or damage done on the state highways was a key issue that came through. So there's some I think now recurring themes, and these are, as Catherine's pointed out in her report, things that we are hearing, but we also are expecting, I guess, will come through in those workshops in April later this month, sorry, and in April around how you want to invest and how you want to prioritise investment in these issues through the RLTP.
Yeah, no, thank you, Lorraine. And gosh, and look, what of course has transpired since December, of course, you know, with the adverse weather events and things, certainly rings through in this report around resilience that we've spoken about already, but also, yeah, diversions and you know, all sorts of matters that we raised back then that are very much more, I guess, yeah, relevant to today's conversation and future workshops. So I'll hand over for more conversations. So you're first.
Thank you. And I am behind the 8 ball. Lorraine, it was your first meeting in December. I was not present at all during that meeting. So this is in fact my first opportunity to input into this discussion. And there are some quite specific things from Hamilton City Council that we would like to see reflected in this, these topics raised at the induction. The Metro Spatial Plan, which I know is in the plan that we discussed earlier, we'd like to see reflected as being a priority here. Along with the Ruakura Eastern Transport Corridor, which, as I understand, is a piece of kit that is pretty much ready to go. So if we're thinking about, you know, things that that we already have ready to go, that will make a real difference to the economic strategy for our entire region because of its connection to the inland port at Ruakura, then that is one that we'd like to see reflected in there. Two more, if I may. Safety on urban-based state highways. So we have, you know, some significant state highways going through our city that has some considerable safety issues. I think if I refer to a couple of them, the roundabout in Dinsdale, which creates real safety concerns, and if anyone's tried to make that right-hand turn from Cobham Drive into Grey Street, which a lot of traffic tries to do, that, you know, it's another example of a bad, you know, some safety issues that need addressing on a state highway. And finally, services to support more frequent public transport services in Hamilton City, and using examples of Comet and the Meteor, which have been really very successful. Just like to see the opportunity to do better in the public transport urban space where we really have a lot of ground to make up, particularly as our city approaches the 200,000 mark in terms of population. Kia ora, thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Ash.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this might be the segment to mention this. I was in a futures meeting a few weeks back, and we had NZTA here, and one of the things I brought up is that, you know, a lot of the time is because we don't have the funding. You know, NZTA don't have the funding, and they were also referring to how long it takes to get things done because they just don't have the funding. So I remember years ago, probably 10, 12 years ago, I rang a radio station and they were talking about this issue, and I said what they need to do on the Bombay Hills, for example, have a toll, $4 in, $4 out. $4 in goes to Auckland Northland roads, $4 out goes to Coromandel Waikato roads, and then you can also do it further down the line. Being over to Italy and, you know, Australia, everywhere, Europe, where toll roads, and you can play marbles on the roads, they're beautiful roads because they've got the funding. Let's face it, you know, we don't have the money. You know, we want all these things, but there is just no funds to address it. If you think about the Bombays, for example, you're talking multi-millions of dollars every single week going into there. You can go and loan fund billions of dollars and start to work. It's a no-brainer, and I'm wondering when we're going to wake up, you know, in this country. You can do it also down through to Taupo and through to Wellington, all different parts. Kaimo Ranges is another one, you know, put a tunnel through, charge the trucks $20 each way through. Rodney will pay that because he's using $100 to get over there in his truck. You know what I'm saying? And diesel. So is whether this is for this committee to maybe forge that in to start getting people to wake up and think about things, I'm not going to stop you going into Auckland to go to a concert. You pay $400 for a hotel and $400 for your concert tickets. You know, we need to get the money so we can do it. That's the problem. No money, no resources.
So that sounds like an excellent item for our regional land transport plan that, as you might be advocating to be strongly included. Yeah, good for our workshop. Just have staff note that, yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to Duncan and then Claire. Sorry, not Duncan, Peter.
Thanks very much. Just a couple of things around this. One is the absolute frustration in our communities related to traffic management and the it's being seen as over prescription of what has to happen when it comes to traffic management, particularly in our towns and villages for anything. And somewhere we need to get some sensible positions around traffic management and, around events and so on. The second thing I would just like to reinforce again, what's item 16, where it's clearly stated, for resilience to remain a central priority for the committee. We absolutely have to do that. And I acknowledge all this as well in the sense that our dependency on the roading network is very strong, is significant, but acknowledge that we're not on the road to anywhere. Waipa, people go through Waipa and so on. So there's lots of people going through. In our district, people are coming to, and it's getting there and then getting around and so on. But I would like to, in saying that, is to advocate for the significance that tourism is to our region, in particular to the tourists who come not because they want to visit Otorohanga or whatever it is, but because they do want to visit the Coromandel. And so having that roading network is absolutely critical, not only for the residents and everybody who lives there and so on, but it's absolutely critical for the tourism industry. And the fact that we have a state highway goes around our district, signifies the dependence we have. And we currently have 11 one-way bridges on that state highway. So we're trying to move people and we're trying to move goods and we're trying to move all rubbish out of the district, etc. And we keep coming across one-lane bridges. And I think we're all very familiar with Watakaruru and the Bailey Bridge at Watakaruru. Nobody complains about the Bailey Bridge, especially now since it's been repaired, but nobody complains about the Bailey Bridge in a 90-degree turn, because at least we've got bridges going both ways. And I don't know why we just don't get the army in and get them to sling up 10 Bailey bridges around the Coromandel Peninsula, and they would still be there in 50 years' time, but we would have actually solved a significant challenge that we have in our district. Thanks.
Thank you. Claire and then Jeanette.
Yeah, so I just want to, I suppose I'm just going to pick up on some of the things that Sue said and then just emphasise some Waipa things. So Sue was advocating for the inland port and things like that, but I want to just widen that because you've got to get the goods to and from that port. And so that means that the State Highway 1 and State Highway 3 corridors are actually freight critical and nationally significant. And so it is that they're essential for that golden triangle efficiency. And so that means prioritising renewal funding, safety upgrades, and the long-term planning considerations. That's all. Now, I think that we've also had a call about public transport, and I'm a really strong supporter of public transport. I love, really pleased to see that in there. The call from Waipa staff is to make it aligned with growth, and we got some really strong growth in Cambridge, Hotaka, things like that, Tiamutu as well. But we just really need to have, I suppose, making sure that the expansion of any services are actually evidence-based on the growth that's occurring. So we do want that great Cambridge to Hamilton corridor or route protected, but Tiamutu connectivity, but interregional links as well. Yeah, and then I guess going back to the speed changes that I mentioned in Rongia, we also need to make sure that these changes are coordinated over long-term plans. So it's kind of like it's quite reactionary, but I think we need to be a bit more forward thinking and seeing where the growth is forecasted, and so how can we, I suppose, anticipate where other speed reductions might be well placed.
Thank you. Jeanette.
I just really want to emphasise what both Mayor Peter and Claire have commented about. I think Mayor Peter has made a very good comment about building back better, and we've talked about resilience. Waitomo's had its issues with not as great as yours at present at Waipa and Otahonga, but in the July weather event and October weather event has left us with 217 sites on our roads that are still to be repaired and may take many years. We talked about that in December. But the building back better, what we're finding is that those sites are having to be fixed in the most economic way, but it is also narrowing the road. So rather than building back better, in many cases, we're actually just putting a bit of an earth bund around it and the roads become narrow. The road I live on has got 5 of those now. It took an hour to back a stock truck and 2 stock trucks and trailers so they could pass on that road the other day. This is our rural economy. This is the product that we're trying to get to market, but also the point that Claire made as well about diversions. One of those roads and the one I live on as well, which is a gravel road, are both quite significant diversion roads when something happens. And that has, I think I've counted 6 times over the last year. So can we, just keeping that in mind, build back better, resilience, diversions, and just being able to get people and product through.
Thank you, Jeanette. And Ray.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I wholeheartedly support Peter on what he's talking about with the 1-lane bridges around the Coromandel. It's a shame NZTA didn't take advantage when the road was out and getting rebuilt. There was so little traffic going over the peninsula that they could have done a lot of that work with very limited traffic management because it was pretty much sorted. So I support you. Ash, I hear what you're saying, and I have to say I sort of like the idea of it, and being overseas in Italy especially, you drive 300 k's on the road and you're paying 32 euros for the pleasure of doing it. But if you don't do that, you're going to take about what would take you 2 hours to drive, it'll take you 6 hours. So you make a financial decision, and I think we've really got to change our way that we fund our roads and things like that we really need to do. When you're saying about diversions, we have it on the Karakia district. When the state highway's out, man, they hammer our interior roads, and it really puts pressure on a very small community to fund it. And we need to look at ways of trying to spread that equity out with it, because you've got some very large trucks that are taking advantage of small roads when that happens. And we've just had a good example of that on a road where I am, and it's got resealed. Then they decided to do a diversion. It's going to have to be redone, and it's just a little bit of that management about thinking ahead.
Thank you, Ray. Look, some great conversations, and I hope that the topics that we raised back in December, you feel like that we've captured them all in this document. And of course, I think a lot of them are going to end up being fed, of course, into our regional land transport plan as well. One of the things that might be useful for our workshop as well, and the mayors who are in the future proof, Mayor Ash will know about this, is that there was recent legislation changed to enable district councils to toll local roads. Think about how that could change your district and how we might implement some of that thinking into the regional land transport plan. I'm not saying that's what we're going to do. I'm just suggesting investigate what the legislative changes have occurred and see whether this is something that you want to pursue it's an opportunity. So just following on the themes that I've heard today. Lisa.
Just to add to what you've just said, Stratford District Council, either last term or the term before, added a targeted rate to local forestry, like road users, to cover the damage on their roads.
Yeah, okay. So there's lots of opportunities. Angela and then Jeanette.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, really interesting conversations. And just would like to echo probably what Sue and Claire have said about that more urban focus. We got a lot of rural voices around the table, which is excellent. But just to add that urban voice as well, that we do need, you know, our biggest city in the Waikato has unique challenges as well. So public transport will play a huge part moving forward. And we do need services that reflect that growth and people's desire, especially in these cost of living times, to have something that's more affordable and is going to meet the needs for them, their children, and also our ageing population as well. So just add my voice to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. And Jeanette.
Just wanted to add on to about the forestry rating. So Waitomo District Council did something similar in the last long-term plan, where we've got a 3 times differential for forestry rating. But I would forestry roading rate. But I would really, really strongly suggest that councils think about what forestry is being planted now, because it's a 30-year issue, and we were probably way too late because it's now been harvested. But it needs to be, you know, really looking forward. While forestry is being planted now, and there's been a terrific amount of it happening, to think about your roading rate on that 30-year time frame.
Thank you, Jeanette. Good advice. Okay, everybody, we'll call that item to an end. So can I have a move and a seconder, please, that we receive that report. So Claire's going to move and Ray's going to second. All in favour? Carried. All right, our next item is the NZTA update. And look, unfortunately, both Andrew and I think Susan were unable to make it today. So we have the wonderful Nairi who's going to be online. So welcome, Nairi. We've already had a brief introduction, of course, from you earlier today. So I understand you've been landed with this this opportunity to speak to us here. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and appreciate the opportunity. And yes, apologies on behalf of both Andrew and Susan, who are unfortunately unable to make this. I will just make sure that the presentation is coming through for you. Right, can you see that?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Right, so presenting some national updates and then some more regionally focused updates for you. Probably ask just to hold questions to the end, just in case answers come through as I work through the information. So we'll start national updates. You've just had a pretty had some pretty great information from staff today on RLTP, and of course the RLTP goes into our 2730 National Land Transport Program, NLTP. So we've got a few key dates here for this year for our NLTP development process. And as we work through that, for example, we've got the RLTP will be coming through. As you work through your RLTP development, it will start feeding into our NLTP program. And there are just some key dates, particularly for staff, around things like continuous programs, for example, which is committed funding coming through into our investment processes. So NLTP, further bit more information on NLTP development for you. So funding assistance rates, a target date for confirming all of your normal, what's called the normal funding assistance rates. is expected later this year. We do understand that the normal FAR will be set probably around August. And just a reminder that funding assistance rate is the funding contribution represented as a percentage that we agree to make to councils and other approved organisations for eligible activities from the National Land Transport Plan. As part of the development of the NLTP, we review and set a FAR for each approved organisation in line with requirements under the LTMA. And overall, across the country, the average FAR is around 53%, and that changes according to different approved organisations or councils. We all share the costs of the land transport network and recognising their national and local benefits from investment. And so there is some information about special purpose roads, for example, that's coming through this year. And if anyone has some really specific questions around funding assistance rates, staff will always be working very hard with our investment advisors, and they are definitely a great first port of call for specific information around how FARs are set, for example. One Network Framework. So the One Network Framework is a national system for classifying roads and streets based on their function. This is quite a technical thing, but it's to help improve our planning, design and investment and transport by looking at roads as both movement corridors for freight, etc., and people, but also streets are destinations for people. So, for example, particularly for businesses and in urban areas, people, going to their places of employment, schools, they're all on a street somewhere. So the ONF is a key input into your RLTP, and teams around councils will be working at the moment on classifying all roads and streets according to the ONF and using the same language, essentially. A little update about our Roads of National Significance program. So we're working with the government currently to develop the long-term pipeline of major transport projects using a variety of funding options and trying to sequence and stage these things. Pipeline includes, of course, the Roads of National Significance, and we're expecting a bit more further information will be released by the government during this year. We did complete all the investment cases for the RONs, as they are called, in 2025. And so all of the RONs are currently in either pre-implementation or there are a couple also in construction. We're completing pre-implementation, and that supports the government's commitment to deliver the pipeline of high-value infrastructure projects and making sure that these projects are ready for when construction comes available. As I mentioned, there's a few in construction, one being over on, well, there's two actually, over on the other side of the Kaimais, the Omanawa Bridge replacement and Takitimu Northlink Stage 1, of course. Community Road Safety Fund. The Community Road Safety Fund is an initiative that supports community groups to deliver community designed road safety initiatives. There was a call for applications towards the end of last year that are currently being reviewed, and decisions for those will be notified during this month with funding starting in the next financial year. Maintenance. Maintenance, we've just gone through quite a significant change to what's called the integrated delivery contracts. We had preferred suppliers nominated prior to Christmas, and we're currently working through the final contract processes with those. New contracts are starting on the 1st of May this year, and there's a lot of, obviously, as you can imagine, internal and supplier onboarding alongside closeouts of the previous current network outcomes contracts. State highway speed management, that was, you've obviously talked about that previously this morning. So we do have variable speed limits going into all our state highway schools before the 1st of July this year. So we've been working very hard with your staff and schools on local and state highways around making sure we've got solutions for those schools. We do have some intersection speed zones that are being consulted on currently and more to come. And there is a small number of community requested locations that meet assessment funding criteria. There is a very good online page. I'm sure that you staff will be happy to share that URL with you, which you can actually request us to look at locations. And if you have communities that also want locations to be looked at, they can request that through there as well. So I'll move on to some more specific regional updates for Waikato. I'm not covering off everything that's happening in the Waikato today, but we've just chosen a few updates around things that may not be as well known or as well socialised to previously. Apologies, that was my dog barking. So the Hamilton to Tauranga Strategic Corridor Plan, those of you who are working with Futureproof may have heard of this. So we are undertaking a strategic corridor plan on the Hamilton Tauranga corridor. It is to guide how we manage, optimise and enhance our strategic networks over the next 30 years. It's just gotten underway and we've had some initial engagement with councils who are obviously will have some important input into the plan, and also we want to work with quite closely. We're working with iwi and Hapu as well. And in future, we also are looking at doing a strategic plan on State Highway Pairiari to Desert Road. So that's quite a long corridor, obviously. But these are very long-term plans, as mentioned, 30-year, trying to develop a really good strategic view of what we need to do to and how our corridors need to evolve to meet and support regional aspirations, particularly. Oh, apologies, I've hit the wrong button. So in the Waikato, variable speed limits around schools, we've got 47 state highway schools, 12 who currently have their variable speed limits in place or are compliant with the rule. One school which didn't require any treatment, and we've got 34 schools which are looking to have signs installed. Obviously, that's quite a lot in one go. However, we'll be getting that all done by term 3, 2026, as the rule required of us. In terms of state highway speed management, so as previously mentioned, there are some consultations that have been completed and are currently awaiting decisions. State Highway 2729, the 26A Morrinsville Road Speed Review, 528, and yes, those other locations, 27, 29 and 39. We expect decisions to be with us fairly shortly, and obviously once they are, those will be shared with RTC. Cambridge to Pairiari is one of our roads of national significance. C2P is currently in property acquisition and progressing final design, and resource consents and designations have been granted. Construction funding is to be, any confirmation of construction funding availability will be coming later in the year. Hamilton Southern Links. As you know, Hamilton Southern Links is a very significant transport corridor south of Hamilton. We have progressed doing some geotech investigations. Had a small blessing. We've been testing ground conditions, obviously. Construction over much of Waikato has some very challenging ground conditions, so we need to do work in order to understand what's going on there. And as previously said, as Southern Lakes is one of the RONs, it's also in what's called pre-implementation. Funding was approved for that. And we expect that we'll understand more about staged funding as we know more from the government around the RONs program as a whole. Maintenance has been a big program, again, a big program of work across Waikato Bay of Plenty. Weather has had a large effect, as all of us have experienced this year, this summer. The new year started very strong, really lots of multiple renewals happening in different places, and we understand that that does have quite a significant impact on people's journeys. Overall, eventually it leads to an improvement in network condition that we hope people do see and do understand. Last year we started the Te Rao Te Waiuru Accelerated Maintenance Program, which was a very intensive program of maintenance. We've just finished season 2, or we're coming to the end of season 2 in 2026, and project will have rebuilt 27% of State Highway 1, which is a pretty significant figure. We have, well, actually finishing today, we've had some overnight road closures on State Highway Desert Road and seen some detours on other state highways in that area. Cambridge Expressway, State Highway 1, we are having to undertake some major remedial work in March and throughout probably the next few months of this year. We'll be reconstructing the road, laying asphalt and pavement, equating to approximately 62 lane kilometres, so it's along a 16-kilometre section of State Highway 1. We'll be completing it in 5-kilometre stages, basically trying to raise the resilience of the expressway and keep it ready for future growth. Speaking of resilience, weather recovery in Coromandel, I don't really need to explain this, I'm sure. Everyone knows how severe some of the recent weather events have been, and certainly the Coromandel took a brunt of that in February. We've got months of some work restoring state highways, some pretty significant repairs happening in 20 sites, and our teams are currently working to fully assess what the damage is and also make sure we can put the right fixes in place, and looking to improve the resilience of the state highway. And also, of course, we've got the weather recovery from the more recent events around Waitomo Trahonga. So State Highway 39 Mangati Bridge and State Highway 31, we've got a temporary bridge hopefully being operational by mid-March on State Highway 39 to restore access south of Prongia. It is an acro bridge rather than a Brayley bridge. However, it's a similar style, and we'll have a 50-tonne weight limit. Traffic will have to be managed with temporary signals. State Highway 31 to Kawhia, work is already underway on that road, and we do expect it will be completed towards the end of April. So that's a relatively good story for that community as well. And this brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you. I will stop presenting.
Yeah, Nari, thank you so much. I know you've had to step in at the last minute, so really appreciate the presentation. I think you've done a fantastic job. And thank you for the swift response, I guess, in terms of the weather events and the work that you're doing and the in the Aotearoa and Waitomo region. So greatly appreciated. Now, folks, we have, as you know, our next agenda item is we've got a special topic freight. We have a number of presenters coming to talk to us. We're going to try and maximise that amount of time as we possibly can. And knowing, of course, Paul Nairi has been in the hot seat at the very last minute. So if you have a question that we think might be better directed to Andrew or Susan, you can email me and we can get some responses on that. But Nairi might be happy to answer a couple of questions, of course, and we've got Mike, Claire and Peter. So we'll start that, but what we will do is, like I say, try and maximise our time for our next item, please. So, Mike,
Okay,
over
look,
to
I'll
you.
follow this up with an email. So got a few things I wanted to raise. One, the Hamilton Tauranga links. Look, I think that's a regional, just it comes back to that productivity stuff I was talking about earlier. So just really want to stress that importance and great to see that work is underway on that. Far rates, and look, I'll follow this up with more specific email, but at the moment it's done district wide and we're on the lower, 51% rate. Okay, we've got aspects of our network that are comparable with, especially our unsealed network, which with Waitomo and Aotearoa, who have a far more, reasonable rate in terms of support. So the question I will be taking up is, because we've had our far rate application process explained very well to us, and there's not a lot of room in there, wiggle room. But yeah, is the district-wide approach the appropriate way to look at that, given, when you've got a district like ours, which is very diverse? So I'll take that offline. Bridges, we've got some major issues with bridges, but I'll take that to our ILM workshop. And the water, when you talked about RONs, great work. Again, Southern Links, very important to the region. But Water 23 was funded for a roundabout. It's a dangerous intersection. That roundabout is now gone. Construction funding's disappeared. How do those sort of projects fit into the scheme of things? Just a question. Thank you.
Yep, no, thank you, Mike. Good questions, and we'll make sure we get those answers to you. Claire and then Peter.
Thanks. Look, I just wanted to let Nairi know how the huge thanks and support, appreciation that the community has expressed to me about getting repairs underway for that State Highway 39 bridge at Mangati. Yeah, appreciate it's only a single lane, but it was fantastic to get an indication of when it would start and, what would be the outcome. And yeah, I just would say, yeah, huge thanks for getting that underway. Thank you.
Take the praise, Nairi. Doesn't come all the
Yes.
time for NZTA.
Thank you. And I will pass that along to our maintenance and operations people who deserve it. Thank you.
Mayor Peter, and then Angela.
Thanks. Nairi, thanks very much for your presentation. Appreciate that. Firstly, will we get a copy of the slides or not? Thank you.
Yes, we'll make sure you do.
So the matter of far rates, I will take up by email. Thank you, Liz. I'll also, in that email, send a list of sites where those acro bridges can be placed around the Coromandel Peninsula. They'll do very well for us. Thank you very much. But just in one of your slides, the one where you're specifically talking about the Coromandel, you talked there about the intent to build that better. That slide seems to be at variance with the narrative that we're being told currently. Do you have a comment on that?
I would say that we're looking to build to be resilient for the network as it currently is. I suppose that in terms of what we are looking at under our current GPS, its direction around resilience is a little bit different from the previous Build Back Better. And so we are working to that GPS. And that's probably the best I can say to you.
Thanks very much. I'll bank the slide.
Thank you, Peter. And Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Nairi, for your time today. My question is, are you joining us for the PT subcommittee this afternoon? Because I might save my questions for then.
I will be at the PT subcommittee.
I'll
yes.
save my questions for then. Thank you.
Okay, are there there's no other questions? No? Brilliant. Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll receive the NZ Transport Agency Waka Kotahi update. So can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Angela's going to move, Claire's going to second. All in favour? Carried. Thanks. All right, well, we're going to have a quick break, quick bathroom break and a quick breather, if that's okay. If everyone's happy, we'll just take 10 minutes and be back here at 11:25. We have a number of speakers. Mayor Rodney, you're up first. Otorohanga Transport on our freight special topic. For those who'd like a cup of tea, hot chocolate or coffee, please, we've got our entry and exit through these doors here if you haven't been here before. So we'll see you all back here at 11:25.